Now, worried about your job? Well, two American academics think nearly all of us should be, because what they call the second machine age is upon us. The first time around, it was disastrous if you worked with your hands. The first modern census said nearly a quarter of us worked on the land or fished the seas. Today, that's just 1%, because machines took nearly all the muscle jobs. In their place, though, technology created huge numbers of roles where you have to use your brain. Now they account for 80% of UK employment. But a new book out of MIT in Boston says that the machines in the shape of robots and computers are about to destroy most of these jobs, with profound impacts on our society and our economy. Our technology editor, David Grossman, reports.
This is how we used to think robots would take over the Earth.
Back to the stairs, quick!
In reality, well, it could be far scarier.
Because this time, the robots are after our jobs.
Science has invented a new mechanical helpmate for the farmer.
Machines have been gobbling up human jobs for centuries, but some believe we're now entering a new age of mass redundancy created by technology.
I've come to MIT to meet two professors who think we are at what they say is an inflection point, where the familiar past turns into a very different future with blistering and bewildering speed. Because of technology, they believe that many of the jobs we depend on are simply going to disappear.
Andrew McAfee and Eric Brynjolfsson have called their book The Second Machine Age, and it has policymakers worried.
The reason we called the book The Second Machine Age was a direct reference to the Industrial Revolution, where the limitations of our muscles were augmented or even eliminated by the steam engine and later the internal combustion engine and other technologies. Today, we're doing much the same thing for our brains, for cognitive tasks.
What's driving this accelerating change is the exponential rise in computing power. Today's consumer electronics would have been classed as supercomputers a couple of decades ago.
When there are billions of supercomputers around the world and they're all interconnected and there's an ocean of data, that really does put us in a place where we've never ever been before, and it helps explain why we're seeing these crazy science fiction advances coming now.
Crazy science fiction advances like cars that can drive themselves thought impossible just a decade ago. Not great news for lorry drivers. Crazy science fiction advances like Baxter, a robot worker made by Boston company Rethink Robotics. He can replace humans in many light industrial jobs and costs about $4 an hour all up. That's half the minimum human wage in Massachusetts, and anyone can put him to work.
I press a button there to say I want you to close your hand, lift it up, drop it in the box like that. I've already shown him the position of these other widgets here. Press one button, better put that one back, so he's expecting where it is, and I can just pick up my coffee while he gets on with his work. Cheers.
Man, my feet are killing me.
Jobs that were considered human only are falling to the robots, like warehouse picking. Navigating around a vast space with ever-changing inventory and no two orders the same, it was all deemed impossible for machines. Not anymore. Autonomous robots produced by Kiva Systems, based just outside Boston, lift up the shelves and bring them to one of the central pickers. Companies need far fewer humans. With a quickening pace, the jobs under threat are creeping steadily up the education scale to graduates and professionals.
The scope of tasks that machines can do is rapidly expanding into more high-level tasks, lawyers, some types of medical diagnosis, investment banking advice, and also at the other end, truck drivers and different kinds of robotic work that used to be done by people on assembly lines.
An IBM computer system able to rapidly understand and analyze natural language, Watson.
The IBM computer Watson can thrash human champions in the American game show Jeopardy!
Elected every 5 years, it has 736 members from 7 parties.
Watson, what is Parliament? Right.
But that is just a party trick compared to what else it can do.
A new generation of doctors are helping Watson learn the language of medicine. In turn,
ingesting every available scrap of digitized medical knowledge, Watson is on its way to being a better diagnostician than any human doctor. And unlike a human, Watson can treat millions of patients at the same time. This is one of the ways jobs will disappear in the second machine age. The best in any field can capture the whole market and potentially fabulous wealth. Professions like accountancy and the law are already in the frame.
Previously, the human best tax accountant just didn't have the capacity to serve the entire market. But with digital goods, it's different. Once you've made one copy, it's trivial to make additional copies. And I should say that's mostly good news. It's nice that we all have access to the best of many of these different categories. And as consumers, it's good news, but it also leads to a big reallocation.
In other words, even greater wealth inequalities. But at least new jobs will be created. Well, don't count on it. This retail development in Boston used to be a Ford factory. Here, new jobs come from the rubble of the old. But if the machines are able to not only out-muscle, but also out-brain humans, exactly which jobs will humans do?
There's no automatic guarantee that these jobs will appear or that they will be at good wages. There's no economic law that says that everyone's going to benefit from technology. It's possible for some people, even potentially a majority of people, to be made worse off.
What sort of society and economy could this lead to? There's a story about a Ford executive and a union boss touring a newly automated car plant.
The Ford executive, looking out over the ranks of machines that were now building the cars, joked to the union boss, "How are you going to get these guys to pay union subscriptions?" The union boss replied, "How are you going to get them to buy Fords?"
When work vanishes from a community, nothing good happens, right? At the individual level, at the level of the community, you see lots of different flavors of social breakdown. Because for most of us these days, a meaningful life, it has work as one of its main components, a job, a career, a trajectory in your life. If and when that goes away, what replaces it? I mean, honestly, I don't have a quick answer to that question. We had better start thinking long and hard about it, though.
The vintage robots on display at the MIT Museum seem a bit childish, rather rudimentary. There's nothing remotely threatening about this stick creature from the 80s. You can't say the same for the latest model. According to Brynjolfsson and McAfee, we need to prepare for a new world of even greater inequality, lower social mobility and mass unemployment, where the only place you might learn about good middle-class jobs is in a museum.
Now, Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing can hardly have imagined that hundreds of climbers every year would follow their journey to the top of Everest. The industry that's built up around helping largely wealthy Westerners to the top has boomed in recent years. There are even tales of queues of climbers on the way to the summit. But after 16 mountain guides were killed in an avalanche last week, it is essentially at a standstill. Some Sherpas want to boycott the climbing season completely after the terrible accident, unless they receive a bigger share of the revenue paid by foreign mountaineers. Well, joining us from Salford is Alan Hinks, the first Briton to have climbed all 14 of the world's peaks over 8,000 metres, and Bonita Norris, who broke the record for being the youngest British woman to climb Everest. Thank you both for being with us. Alan, firstly to you, have you ever felt that your life is at risk?
Oh yes, a lot of times on 8,000 metre peaks, particularly on Everest. The first time I went through this ice fall, I have to admit, my heart was in my mouth because I'd read all the books and I knew it was very dangerous. So there was a little bit of a little bit of apprehension, dare I say, bordering on fear. It is a dangerous place.
And these Sherpas, though, face those kinds of dangers on climbers' behalf every day. Surely then they deserve a bigger share of the rewards.
Well, they do, but also, and these